You've seen our review of the STR9C. Now let's see what's at the top of the line. The STR9S from Stoeger. Tabletop review coming up, where you'll see what's in the box, any notes from the manual, essential fit, finish, and features. We'll field strip it, and take a look at chamber support. Coming up next on GBGuns. So as I pick this guy up, notice a little bit of a scratch there on the box, and you'll see why when I get this open. Something was poking through the box, and that's because this guy has some tall sights. In the box, we've got our manual, more on that in a bit. Actual metal plates for mounting optics, because this is optics ready, and the hardware associated with that. 3 20-round magazines have an extended base plate on them and a loader. Mags are marked as made in Italy. Don't know if it's Metcar or not. Witness windows on the back. That's something that I like. Got 2 other back straps. A small Allen wrench, our federally mandated lock. And here's the gun. Full-size guy with a longer threaded barrel, suppressor height sights, and optics ready. As far as notes from and on the manual, it is a full color manual, which is a nice touch, giving you some good diagrams in here. I took a look through looking to see if I could find anything about plus P ammunition, not that you need it with a longer barrel like this, but just in case. And it said CIP and semi-spec. Not sure. They did not say don't use it, they didn't say use it. I believe there is a warning in there about excessive or extended use. As far as specifications, the ones in here are for the standard STR9, not the S. So if you want to find specs, hopefully I'll be able to find them, and you'll be able to see them in the GBGuns Depot article on this gun. The rest of the manual, though, is nice and clear, easy to read, and they use photos where applicable, as well as some computer graphics to make things a little bit easier to spot out what you need to. Here we go. Here's the big long list of specs. You guys can slowly pause and run through that. Sorry, it's not all going to fit on screen, but don't worry, I'll have that in the Depot article. But nice touch that it comes with metal plates for the optics. We'll test it as the gun comes. That means not mounting an optic. Let me get this packaging out of the way and we'll take a look at the gun. Now, this is indeed a large pistol, especially with those extended magazines out there. You notice it has magwell on there. That is included and comes pre-installed. Appears to be on through a set screw in the back. And what I noticed to it is my XXL glove hands fit very comfortably on this. I've got no issues up top at the knuckle, and I can get all my fingers on here, and even without the magwell, to protect my pinky from slamming on a reload. That's really nice. If you're a larger handed guy or ever tried fast reloads on smaller guns, it is not fun to pinch your pinky. Start off by showing clear, and you can see of course that we have a witness window up top there. Lock the slide to the rear and check our magazine eject or release. With the slide back and the gun upright. Yep, that's all we're getting is release. Gravity of course helps, and these big base plates add some weight to help on that, but it's not kicking the mag out like I would personally prefer. That's just a matter of preference though. That other way, drop this, and we can start with our standard look around the gun. Coming up front here, you see a threaded barrel and a nice target crown on the muzzle inside there to protect it. The thread protector also protects even the edge of the muzzle, despite the target crown also being there. So you've got plenty of protection should this thing ever end up nose down in the dirt. I also noticed right away that the thread protector, being small profile, sure, it may not be as tactical looking, but it's the same profile as the barrel, which means you don't have to remove it to field strip the gun. I think that's pretty nice. Got a little bit of the bowl or melt, if you will, on the front to aid with holstering. Very tall sight. If you're new to guns like this, a sight of that height is what's needed to be seen over a suppressor, or if you've got a red dot to help provide for co-witness. It's a fiber optic sight, which is nice. The slide serrations do grip. They're not super aggressive, and the slide is slightly narrower than the frame, so you got to make sure that you're pinching on the ends of your fingers, not broadly, otherwise you're just going to be running the frame. We've got plenty of pick rail space up front, some texturing on the front of the trigger guard for those who like to grip out there, as well as a little bit of a hook. And though it's not a double undercut trigger guard, this upward angle here certainly does allow more space for the support hand than if it were a straight out bit. Since we're here, we'll get to our trigger talk. We're clear and give you a look, give you a description of the feel. Feel to me is far more important than trigger pull weight. I can shoot 10-pound triggers quickly, and I've shot 4-pound triggers poorly depending on the feel. So our take-up has a little bit of resistance to it. Comes to a wall. Pretty good break. Reset is assist and brings you right back to the wall. Pull weight is not competition light. It's a responsible weight, I'd say. Probably somewhere around 6 pounds for those who are worried about whether or not their hands are strong enough. We've got good radiusing under here, the trigger guard, and you see we've got finger grooves here. Now, finger grooves on a lot of guns for me ends up putting me out of my place, but on this gun, it lines up perfectly for me. Also, this recess for the thumb is nice to help you keep away from the slide release, and we have recess on this side to help with reach to the trigger. With the standard backstrap that came in the box, I can overreach this trigger if I want, so I'd have to be conscious about that or try one of the other backstraps. Unfortunately, YouTube won't let us show you removing and installing backstraps anymore. It considers that gunsmithing and the videos get flagged. So off camera, Miss T and I will go through the other two that came with it and take a look at which one works best for us. As far as how much they change profile, you can see the large definitely adds some extra in the curve, but it follows generally the same curve, but it's a little thicker up top here. And as far as breadth, you do get some palm swell on the large one that the small one does not. The medium has maybe some mild swell. So it is going to be 3 different grips, and I strongly encourage people to try the different backstraps or side panels on their guns because it affects how the gun and your hand interact, thereby impacting how well you'll shoot it. Magwell, as you can see, is quite generous. It actually concludes a little bit inside the plastic magwell of the actual pistol, sort of like the Magpul one does for Glocks. The Glock guys got really upset when I pointed that out, so sorry, but you know what? The point of a magwell is to help deflect and redirect the magazine on its way in, if the fact that you've got a narrower top than body doesn't do it for you. So try not to worry too much about that. Texturing on the grip here looks good, feels good, is not particularly aggressive. This is not something that's going to scratch you up too much. Now on the back strap, these pyramids are considerably more aggressive. Coming around the rear, we can see our sight picture. Nice and tight, and it appears to be one where lining up the 3 dots is actually going to work for you. Mostly because the fiber optic is so high to the top of the actual physical sight itself, which is great. I'm personally not crazy about bright in the back and bright up front, but it really comes down to personal preference and the lighting that you're shooting in. We'll figure out what happens in our range. Notice there's a decent ledge here for the tactical need to rack off of a belt or something. Looking at slide frame fit, it's actually very tight. The front's usually where you get the most wiggle, and there's a little bit there. That's because all the support's happening back here on the rails. There's not much support up front, but it feels pretty tight. Coming around the right side of the gun, sorry lefties, aside from what appears to be a reversible magazine release, I can confirm that by the magazine having slots on both sides, you don't have controls on this side. We'll say that the slide stop release is a very low profile, which is nice, and might be one where I won't have an issue with my thumb bumping it. That happens to me quite often. I don't ever bump guns open prematurely, but my thumb will end up resting on here and I prevent it from locking open when empty. We'll find out what happens when we get to the range, and that might change with the different backstraps. Next, we'll field strip the STR-9S and take a look inside the gun. Field stripping the STR-9S happens much like many other striker-fired guns. I'm going to check for clear. We've got takedown levers on both sides of the gun here that have to be pulled down. And we're going to ease the slide back about 1/8 of an inch. I've found that wrapping my hand like this and squeezing my grip works easiest for that. And then we're going to release the striker and the slide comes off the front. Taking a look inside of our frame. Nice big locking block. And you can see we've got steel rails front and rear. I know lately a lot of you have been concerned about seeing polymer in the rear. This gun's got steel. And the trigger mechanism looks very familiar. Looks like a lot of other striker-fired guns out there. To free up our barrel, we're going to put some pressure on the recoil assembly just to get it out of its spot and remove it. You can see we've got a flat coil spring on a steel rod. Nice touch there, especially for a relatively affordable option gun. Unlock the barrel and bring it forward a little bit so it cants like that, and pull it straight out without having to remove the thread protector. That is a nice touch, Stoeger. Thank you for that. It's a minor step, but it is annoying to have to undo that and redo that every time. Looking inside our slide, very simple construction. Slide's got a bit of heft to it. This weight plus the longer barrel making for a longer action movement, I think we're going to have a pretty smooth shooter out of this. But construction looks very reminiscent of some expired patent guns out there, if you know what I'm talking about. There's your safety plunger. It is chamfered around the edges to make the trigger a little bit smoother. Just a nice touch. With all of this out, we can now check for chamber support. Taking a look at our barrel. No polishing on the feed ramp. A little bit of a smudge there from the test fire rounds. It's probably brass jacketed bullets. And there's a little bit of chamfering around the edge there to aid in feeding, which is nice. And we check for chamber support using our nozzler match. We have for years and hundreds of guns because, well, they make darn good stuff and I can trust this to be to spec. What we're going to do is drop this in and listen for a nice clunk, like that. Check to see if the brass can spin freely. And then we're looking to see how much of the brass is supported beyond those bends. Now the bottom end of the brass is the strongest part, but typically under the feed ramp, where we've got plenty of support on this one. Guns like Glocks that want to err on reliability will open that up or give a more sloped feed ramp, relieving some of the steel that supports the brass. And should you have a case want to rupture on you, say it's cheap brass reloaded too many times, aluminum, etc., that sends the exploding forces back into your hand rather than down the barrel. So seeing a nicely supported chamber like this is a good thing. Speaking of, back to the whole plus P thing, plus P ammunition is done to compensate for a too short barrel to try to get the bullet up to speed as if it would in a longer barrel. Most 9mm ammunition is designed around, and the semi-spec is for a 4-inch barrel. This being longer than 4 inches shouldn't need a plus P. However, plus P is 10% over regular pressures, just like NATO spec is. This being a Turkish pistol, it might have been designed for NATO spec. Maybe, maybe not. We'll find out when we get to the range with it. As I reassemble this, I'll tell you about our range review. You'll see our absolute first shots out of this thing. Truly cold shots. Get something binding again. This happened to me on the compact. Does not want to go back any further than that. Make sure everything's in alignment. Then we'll do a full magazine +1, which will be 21 rounds out of this guy. Our trademark What's for Dinner test, putting 10 different loads through it to see what it eats. Then we'll hit the spinner with it for sights and trigger control test. I don't know where it's catching up. Nothing's out of place here. Do 5 shots from 7 yards for a practical accuracy test. And then give you the concluding thoughts of 2 shooters if I can get this thing back together. That's weird, you know, I test run this once before, turned on the camera, and didn't have any issues. That end is entirely round. Make sure that's seated in the spot. And that is locked solid. It does not want to move. Good news is this time it doesn't seem to be the end plate. And I'm leaving the camera running because I think it's important you guys see and understand that this stuff happens and what the process is. Maybe because I played with the safety striker, so we've now, the striker is, sorry, the safety, drop safety on there. Striker is fully released. Nope. Can I pre-arm the striker? No. Does not want to go back together. This is a time to consult the manual. Alright, so off camera I just did it twice without issues. What I did notice was different though was bringing the slide on with some authority made it work. Let's see if it happens this time. So if I come on gently, I hit that stop. But if I just rack it, it runs. So that's the trick to this apparently. I did notice when the lever was hitting the underside of the barrel hood there that it was dropping down, but it was not popping back up. It was just kind of getting stuck. So try it one more time. Apart, and if I ease it back, I get stuck. But if I get a run at it, no issues. That may break in over time. We'll have to remember and try one more time after we've shot this a bit. A quirk, yes. A concern, not at the moment. Everything else seems fine. Still functioning. So we'll see from there. And we will, that Allen key that was included is required to back off this mag well in order to get the back straps out and swap them. So we will play around with that a little bit before we hit the range. Other than that, I'm looking forward to trying this. I like it when there are affordable options out there that give you all the features that higher dollar options are offering, and that's what this thing does, and that's why it interested me. Let me know what your thoughts or experiences are with the Stoeger STR 9S, and we'll see you at the range. Thanks for watching.